the judiciary, Mr. President, and all its attached agencies, and to recognize the distinguished sponsor, Senator Francis Kiko Pangilinan, to sponsor the measure, and to interpolate Senator Erwin Tulfo, Mr. President.
All right. Consideration of the budget of the judiciary is in order, and we recognize Senator Francis Pangilinan to sponsor the said budget.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader, distinguished colleagues. Magandang araw po. It is full circle for this representation as Vice Chairman of the Subcommittee J that will be defending and sponsoring the judiciary budget. Full circle because I defended the judiciary budget 24 years ago.
Wow.
In 2001 when a member of my staff here was in second grade. Narito po tayo ngayon upang iharap ang budget ng judiciary na may kabuuang halaga ng 67,766,560,000 broken down as follows. Supreme Court of the Philippines and lower courts, 58,100,703,000. Presidential Electoral Tribunal, 166,802,000. Sandigan Bayan, 2.6,677,969,000. Court of Appeals, 5,726,091,000. 5,726,091,000. Court of Tax Appeals, 1,094,995 million. 1,094,995,000 and total 67,766,560,000. Pasensya na po kung ako ay nagkakamali sa mga numero dahil sa tanang buhay ko wala pa ako nakikitang ganitong karaming pera. Malaki pong halaga. Sa pamamagitan ng panukalang budget ng judiciary, inaasahan natin ang pagpapalakas, pagtutulungan at pagbibigay ng maagap at konstruktibong pagtugon ng ating mga korte sa mga mahigpit na issue na kinakaharap ng ating bansa. Pero kahit may pondo, ang patuloy na hamon ng ating justice system ay hindi may kakaila. Backlog ng mga kaso na nagdudulot ng pagkaantala ng hustisya, kakulangan ng tauhan sa mga korte. Ang layunin natin ay siguraduhin na sapat ang pondong ibibigay pero tiyaking may malinaw na resulta at epekto sa pagresolba ng mga kaso sa lalong madaling panahon. Bagamat responsibilidad ng buong pamahalaan ang mabuting pamamahala at pananagutan, malaking bahagi nito ang pasan ng hudikatura. The committee report has retained most items in the NEP, the NEP, and General Appropriations Bill. But we strengthened the budget where it matters most. Dinagdagan natin ang budget ng Office of the Judiciary Marshals. Under RA 11691, the judiciary marshals are essential to protecting judges, personnel, and judicial assets. The additional 160 million pesos allows a phased, accountable rollout aligned with actual operational needs. Nagdagdag din tayo ng 93 million pesos para sa Unified Legal Aid Service Office or ULASO, which expands legal aid access to include counseling, representation, and public legal education, especially for marginalized communities. Pinapalakas nito ang tungkulin ng hudikatura sa saligang batas na siguruhin na may patas na access sa hustisya ang lahat, lalo na ang mahihirap. Naglaan din tayo para sa Justice Sector Convergence Program para naman makarating na ang hustisya sa 21st century. This enables nationwide e-filing and e-service, digital warrants, subpoenas, and orders, and secure integration with the DOJ, DILG, and other agencies via the National Justice Information System. Kung wala ito, mananatiling analog ang hustisya, samantalang digital speed naman ang takbo ng krimen at ng korupsyon. Ang budget para sa Filipino Sign Language in courts ay nakalaan para sa training, accreditation at interpretation services. Makakatulong itong mabigyan ng due process ang mga taong may communication disabilities. Tulad ng mga naunang dagdag pondo, bahagi ito ng pagtupad ng judiciary sa kanilang tungkuling gawing abot kamay ang hustisya para sa lahat, kasama ang may kapansanan. Hindi luho ang mga nasabing budget item. These are meaningful investments to strengthen the justice system. Ngayon, dedepensahan natin ang budget. Hindi lang para sa institusyon, pero para sa buong sambayanan. In the budget hearing of the judiciary, Mr. President, which coincided with the Blue Ribbon Committee hearings on the flood control scandal, I place on record that while the Blue Ribbon Committee was being monitored by our citizens with eagle eyes, in the end, whatever is heard in the Blue Ribbon Committee eventually will be brought before the judiciary, where the sentencing or the trial or the arraignment and hopefully the accountability will be achieved, not in decades or many years, but swiftly, as mandated by the Constitution. Mr. President, this representation, together with my staff, LBMRO, and the judiciary family, are ready to answer your questions.
Thank you, Your Honor, Senator Pangilinan. Senator Erwin Tulfo is recognized to interpolate.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I commend the committee for increasing the budget allocated for the judiciary. The committee increased it by 539 million pesos. Ano-ano po, Ginoong Pangulo, ang mga items na dinagdagan ng budget at paano po ito makakatulong sa ating hudikatura? May mga hindi po ba napondohan for fiscal year 2026?
Sa totoo lang, marami pong nahiniling ng ating hudikatura na hindi po rin natin naibigay due to the lack of fiscal space, but still we endeavor to ensure na magkaroon ng karagdagang budgetary support. The following activities under the Supreme Court of the Philippines and lower courts, yung supervision of lower courts, nadagdagan po yan. Philippine Judicial Marshal Service, augmented ang kanilang budget. Unified Legal Aid Service as well. Adjudication of Supreme Court cases. Justice Sector Convergence Program. At yung maintenance and operating expenses, Mr. President.
Mr. President, napansin din po natin, tinaasan din po ng komite ang pondo para sa Unified Legal Aid Service by 39 million. Ito po ay napakagandang balita dahil marami po sa ating mga kababayan, Ginoong Pangulo, ang nangangailangan ng legal assistance. At karamihan lamang po ang alam ay ang PAO. Mr. President, maaari po bang malaman kung paano po makakakuha ng free legal assistance sa Unified Legal Aid Service? Marami po tayong mga kababayan na nanonood ngayon at maganda pong marinig nila na meron pong ganitong klaseng programa ang ating pamahalaan.
Yes, sa programang ito, lahat ng covered na mga abogado sa buong bansa ay mare-require na mag-render ng 60 hours of pro bono service for a period of 3 years. So, yan ang isang malaking bagay na pro bono service by all lawyers who are covered.
Okay. Kasama po dyan, Ginoong Pangulo, lahat po ng abogado, you mean both in government at saka yung private practice?
Lahat po, pero ang mga katulad ko na nasa gobyerno ay hindi po covered. So lahat ng abogado na sa private sector, private practice, ang required to have 60 hours of pro bono services for a period of 3 years.
So safe po, Ginoong Pangulo, ang ating mga abogado rito, ating mga legis na nasa paligid po natin. Anyway, my next question.
But may I just add, covered lawyers under the rules refer to the following members of the Philippine Bar whose membership status with the Integrated Bar of the Philippines, number one, is not terminated, who are not retired in accordance with IBP bylaws, two, and third, who are not excluded under Section 5 of this rule.
Thank you, Mr. President. Salamat po sa kasagutan na yan. Ang susunod ko pong tanong, Ginoong Pangulo, on an average, ilang taon din po ang binibilang bago marisolba ang isang kaso sa RTC, MTC at appellate courts? Ang dahilan po ba nito ay dahil sa ika nga kakulangan ng tao? Or is it ika nga yung scheduling, hindi magtugma yung schedule ng prosecutor, ng defense, yung oras din po, or marami pong mga kaso na hinahawakan po ang isang abogado or ang isang huwes. So which is which? Or it is all of this, kaya po medyo tumatagal ang kaso?
Isang factor is that may kakulangan ng courts in selected areas. Pagka kulang ang courts, cases in these courts may last up to 5 years. Kaya pagka nagdagdagan ang mga korte, mababawasan ang caseload, mapapabilis ang paglilitis at mababawasan yung taon dahil nga madadagdagan ang ating mga courts.
Thank you, Mr. President. Isa pa pong katanungan ko. I have last 4 questions po. Napansin ko po na ang ating po mga Hall of Justice ay tila yung iba po ay dilapidated na, lalo na po sa mga probinsya. Hiningan po ba ng budget ng judiciary ito? Nito for 2026 tulad ng repair, refurbishment? Kasi minsan po, kaawa-awa po yung status ng ilang po mga Hall of Justice natin, Ginoong Pangulo.
Totoo po yan. Dahil ang ideal sana, pagpasok mo sa korte, magkakaroon ka ng respeto at mangha pagpasok sa korte. Pero ang nangyayari dahil nga hindi maganda, sira-sira, dilapidated, paano magkakaroon ng mangha? Baka nga kabaliktaran ang mangyari. For this year, the amounts that have been allocated are for the Manila City Hall of Justice, which will house 120 courts, 2,688 million, including this one. No, this was this.
This is for Cagayan de Oro.
But were they already
Additional
allocated?
funding. Not yet po, not allocated.
Okay.
Not given. We need more.
Now, as to yung hindi napondohan, kaya sabi ko nga, merong mga hindi na pagbigyan, at hiningi, Cagayan de Oro City, location ng infrastructure, 2 billion 4 million. Cebu City, 4 billion 56 million. Lapu-Lapu City, 550 million 652,000. Makati City Land Acquisition, 1.9 billion. So yung Cagayan de Oro, Cebu, Lapu-Lapu at Makati City hiningi ng hudikatura, subalit dahil nga sa kakulangan ng fiscal space ay sa susunod na siguro ito. Pero yung 2.688 billion ng Manila City has been allocated.
Mr. President, if I may just interject, I recall giving 200, it was a institutional amendment that we did, I think in the 19th Congress, where we were able to give 200 million to the Court of Appeals in Cagayan de Oro. Could we just find out whatever happened to those funds, Your Honor?
Yes, that is correct. Our Court of Administrator and the Supreme Court Justices confirmed that there was a 200 million allocation for Cagayan de Oro. However, they are still asking for additional funding for what they call the escalation cost.
Yes, because that was about maybe 8 years ago or 9 years ago, 8 years ago.
Yes, and likewise, because of the new design to accommodate all courts, then indeed the cost has escalated.
Yeah, for the Court of Appeals. I just wanted to reiterate na tumulong tayo as early as then. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. President, marami pong magagandang programa ang Supreme Court. Particular na po itong Justice on Wheels na nakita po natin, I think, last year, a couple of years ago. Kumustahin ko lamang po ito. How is it doing? Ito po ba ay gumagana na nationwide, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, Mr. President?
Nag-evolve na raw from Justice on Wheels, naging digital na. Kala ko sasabihin ay Justice on Wings. Pero dahil sa digital technology, ay kaya nang mapuntahan at ma-access ng ating mga kababayan yung ating court system.
All right.
So
Thank you.
justice on digital.
Thank you, Mr. President. My last question, Mr. President, Mr. Chair. May sapat po ba tayong abogado o korte para maglitis po ng ating mga juvenile cases? Kasi nga po ako po ang chairman ng Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development. At kayo po nagpanukala ng batas ng juvenile justice system po natin. Do we have enough lawyers, not lawyers, but courts to handle these cases para mailitis din naman in fairness to sa mga mga bata po na nasa mga institusyon, Ginoong Pangulo?
Yes, dalawang klase ng korte na family courts ang meron sa ating hudikatura. Yung statutory family courts, which means tayo sa Kongreso ang nagpasa nito, at yung Supreme Court designated family courts. Ang total ay about almost over 300 family courts nationwide who have jurisdiction over children in conflict with the law cases involving children in conflict with the law, and the juvenile justice and family cases.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. President, this representation is fully supportive of the proposed budget of the judiciary. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President.
Maraming salamat sa ating distinguished Senator Erwin Tulfo, at salamat na sa mga katanungan. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. President, we'd just like to put
Yes,
on record as
Majority
well the presence of several distinguished justices of our courts. I'd like to just put on record that we have with us, of course, Associate Justice Joseph Lopez, the Honorable Associate Justice Maidas Marquez is with us.
Yes.
The Honorable Justice Raul Villanueva is with us as well, together with Honorable Maria Teresa Dolores Gomez Estuesta, our court administrator. We also have with us the presiding justice of the Court of Appeals, Ma'am Honorable Fernanda Lampas Peralta. Ma'am. We also have with us Associate Justice Florencio Mamawag Jr. of the Court of Appeals. And we also have with us from the Sandigan Bayan, Associate Justice Hener Hito. And from the Court of Tax Appeals, Presiding Justice of the Sandigan Bayan, Justice Geraldine Faith Ikong is here, ma'am. Also with us is from the Court of Tax Appeals, Honorable Justice Belen Ringpis Liban, Acting Presiding Justice of the Court of Appeals, as well as Honorable Corazon Ferrer Flores, Associate Justice as well of the Court of Appeals. If I missed anyone, my apologies. We'll name
Thank
them
you,
later.
Mr. Majority
Thank
Leader.
you.
We welcome our honorable members of the judiciary to the Senate.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
President, we just like to recognize next on the list is Senator Rodante Marcoleta.
Senator Dante Marcoleta is recognized.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. President. Mr. President, kamakailan lamang po ay merong isang tao na naging controversial dahil sa kanyang ginawang pagtestigo dito sa Blue Ribbon Committee. Ang pangalan niya po ay Orly Gutesa. Si Orly Gutesa po, kagaya po ng nalalaman na ng marami, kung hindi man lahat, he testified before the Blue Ribbon Committee and he was the only one who was able to connect the dots between Saldico and Martin Romualdez. He chose to present himself before the committee, took his oath, and he allowed himself to be interpellated by the members of the Blue Ribbon Committee. This representation thought that that was the thing to be done. Pagkatapos po noon, Mr. President, yung mga tao na ang paniwala nila ay hindi dapat pakinggan yung statement sapagkat obviously pinoproteksyonan nila yung mga pangalan na nabanggit doon, ay gumawa sila ng paraan para discredit yung mama, meaning Orly Gutesa. Nagsimula po sila na hanapan ng butas yung nagnotaryo doon sa dokumento. Sa akin pong palagay, Mr. President, naging muti ang academic yung notaryo sapagkat yung testigo humarap naman. Maghapon na nandito po kasama natin tumestigo at sinagot lahat ang mga tanong sa kanya. Ngunit hindi po sila nagkasya doon. Talagang pinagsikapan nila sa pagitan ng pag-disown nung notary public ng kanyang alleged signature. Mr. President, gusto ko pong malaman ngayon, hindi po ba kalakaran na yung mga nagpapanotaryo, ibibigay lang po yung dokumentong gusto nilang ipanotaryo sa opisina ng kanilang pinuntahan at kung magkano man ang bayad na hihingin sa kanila, magbabayad po at kukunin na nila yung notaryo o yung dokumentong pinanotaryo. Hindi po ba ganun ang kalakaran, Mr. President?
That is correct, Mr. President. Kinakailangan ng personal appearance nung affiant.
Ganun nga po ang ginawa niya, Mr. President. At kung titingnan po natin sa mga matataong lugar, for example, the vicinity of a city hall, doon po dikit-dikit po ang mga opisinang nagnunotaryo. Meron pa nga pong nasa jeep na nagnunotaryo. Pangkaraniwan po bang nangyayari, Mr. President, na yun po nagpapanotaryo bago siya umalis ay pipilitin niyang puntahan yung inaakala niyang nagnotaryo at sasabihin niya, Ma'am, Sir, pasensya na po kayo. Gusto ko lamang pong malaman kung talaga kayo po ang pumirma dito sa dokumentong ninotaryo ninyo. Nangyayari po ba yun? Sinisiguro po ba nung nagpanotaryo bago siya umalis na yung inaakala niyang nagnotaryo sa kanyang dokumento ay siya nga? At nire-require po ba niya na talagang patunayan ng nagnotaryo na pirma niya nga talaga yung nasa dokumento?
Well, base sa personal kong karanasan, mayroong assumption ang nagpapanotaryo na talagang yung nagnotaryo ay mayroong komisyon. Hindi ho kickback. Ibig sabihin, notarial commission. May authority. So, I agree na hindi practice yung ang nagpapanotaryo, tatanungin pa yung nagnonotaryo, ikaw ba talaga itong pumipirma? In fact, kabaliktaran. Ang notaryo nagtatanong dun sa pipirma, ikaw ba talaga ito dahil kailangan mong humarap sa akin?
Salamat po sa inyong kasagutan. Totoo po yun. Lalong-lalo na po kung yung dokumentong sinasabi nila na pinalsipika ay meron naman pong notarial details. Ang ibig sabihin po, merong stampad na ginamit na kung saan po sinusulatan yung mga detalye ng notaryo at meron pa pong parte doon na kung saan ay ilalagay mo yung numero ng dokumento, yung pahina, pati po yung bilang ng Book of Registry. Yung pong dokumento ni Gutesa, Mr. President, pag sinalat mo po, meron po kasi akong kopya. Meron pong dry seal. Ang ibig po bang sabihin, Mr. President, si Gutesa, kinakailangan pa niyang maghanap o mag-imbento ng stampad para sa notarial details at saka yung lugar ng opisina na kung saan i-stamp mo doon. Manghihiram o magnanakaw kaya siya ng isang dry seal? Paano gagawin ng isang ordinaryong taong pumunta sa isang notarial office na hanapin lahat ito? Saan niya kukunin yung notarial number? Saan niya kukunin yung book number, yung page number? Ano po ang mapapala ng isang nagpapanotaryo kung pepekehin niya yung notaryo? Sir President, sa ordinaryong pangyayari po kailangan pa bang gawin ng isang Orly Gutesa yun? Yung ipeke niya yung... O paano niyang gagawin? Anong capacity ng isang ordinaryong tao na hanapin lahat yun? Sa konting oras na natitira sa kanya dahil kinabukasan, kailangan makarating siya rito para personal siyang tetestigo. Ano po ang mapapala, Mr. President, ni Orly Gutesa kung ang kukunin niyang notaryo ay peke?
Well, bilang abogado, if I may be allowed, clearly, ang merong, at the very least, ang dapat may pananagutan dun, yung pumeke, rather than si Ginoong Gutesa. In good faith, the way I see it, no, I could be mistaken dahil hindi naman natin nakausap personal si Mr. Gutesa. So this is really more speculative. In good faith, pumasok siya ron. Sinabi, magpapanotaryo, pinirmahan ni Ginoong Gutesa. At yun na nga, may stamp, may signature, may date, etc. So, kung merong may pananagutan dun, yung nameke. Kung totoo nga peke. At base ata sa findings ng executive judge ng RTC Branch 18 ay yung signature nga nung espera ay falsified. So yung nag-falsify nung signature, yan, may pananagutan po.
Salamat po sa inyong sagot, Mr. President. Pangkaraniwan po kasi, sa haba at sa dami ng mga nagnunotaryo, hindi naman po talaga yung abogado o abogadang pumipirma. Karaniwan po, meron silang staff, meron silang secretary, na sila lang ang pumipirma para sa kanilang principal. Palagay ko po ito, Mr. President, ay pangkaraniwan ang nangyayari. Ang biro nga po ngayon yung notarial services na nangyayari sa ating bansa already transitioned into a cottage industry. Tama po ba yung observation, Mr. President?
In practice po, maaaring ang sabihin na nangyayari yan. Pero hindi pa rin sabihin na nating legal. In other words, yung pagde-delegate ng notarial services sa isang staff is against the law. At according to our court administrator, merong isinasagawang spot checking. Sino?
Ang executive judge, Carl.
Ang executive judge
Ng Maynila.
ng Maynila para madetermina kung talagang maayos yung dokumento, yung notarial registry nung mga notary, yung mga commission, notarial commissions.
Kaya ko po binibigyan ng emphasis ito, Mr. President. Yung kahalagahan po ng kanyang sworn statement, kahit na po yung ating chair ng Blue Ribbon Committee, paulit-ulit niyang sinabi na yung relevance nung testimony ni Gutesa na ginawa sa harap mismo ng committee ay nananatiling valid sapagkat pinanumpaan niya before the committee. Ngunit, ang nakakabagabag nga po, Mr. President, bakit pinipilit na ibaling sa isang bagay na hindi naman yun ang punto ng pinag-uusapan? Naging moot and academic na po, ngunit pilit na ibinabalik. At ang nangyari nga po, sa takot ng Gutesa siguro, na siya po ay kakasuhan ng perjury, kakasuhan ng falsification, wala naman po siyang kinalaman at wala siyang kapasidad para gawin yun. Unang-una, wala po siyang motibo. Ang totoo po niyan, ako lamang po ang nagsabi sa kanya, ipanotaryo mo yan, Mr. Gutesa, kasi hindi man kita kilala eh. Parang karagdagang assurance lang sa akin na yung kanyang statement ay talagang ginawa niya ng buong buo sa kanyang sarili. Kahit na wala yun eh, tatanggapin ko naman yun eh. Sasabihin ko lang, o sige, kung talagang buong loob mo, Mr. President, sinabi ko po sa kanya, pumunta ka ron. Buong loob mo at totoo lahat ang sinabi mo, pumunta ka doon. Ganun nga po yung ginawa niya. Sa makatwid, ang aking pong gustong ipunto, kahit wala yung notaryo eh. Bakit po doon nila pilit? Doon nila pinipilit na ibaling ang pinag-uusapan. Para lamang po, para lang makaiwas, para ilihis, para linlangin ang maraming Pilipino. Ito po yung nakakalungkot dito. Si Gutesa po, nilagay niya sa panganib ang kanyang buhay at ang buhay ng kanyang pamilya. Gutesa has nothing to gain. Gutesa has everything to lose. Siguro po, sa kanyang puso inisip niya, inasahan niya, natutulungan siya ng Estado na proteksyonan man lang siya. Dahil sa kanyang ginawa para matulungan ang Estado. I-prosecute kung sino talaga ang may kasalanan sa malaganap at kasuklam-suklam na iskandal na ginawa ng mga taong kasangkot dito. Pero wala po eh. Wala siyang nahita. Despite his courageous testimony before the Blue Ribbon Committee, he did not get even the courtesy that he deserves. Alam po ninyo, Mr. President, sa kagustuhan ko po na kahit papano, may saayos kung talagang sino ba yung nagnunotaryo na yun? Kung hindi man pirma ng notaryo publiko, meron at meron siyang kinakasangkapan para pumirma sa kanya. Sumulat po ako sa ating court administrator na sana po ang representasyong ito ay makahingi man lang ng mga samples ng mga na-dokumento, ng mga notaryong dokumento ng abogada na ating pinag-uusapan. Ginrant po yung aking letter request ng court administrator. Nahingi po kasi ako ng sample, kahit na 3 samples lang po sa bawat buwan, mula Enero hanggang Agosto ng 2025. Ang masakit lamang po na nangyari, Mr. President, at gusto ko po bigyan ninyo ng opinion, kung pwede, kung tama ang ginawa ng executive judge. Ang sabi po niya, siya ang magdidesisyon kung ano ang sample na ibibigay sa aking opisina. Do you think, Mr. President, the executive judge committed grave abuse of discretion?
Yes. Um, According to the court administrator, the executive judge submitted 3 samples,
Sample documents.
and that and therefore they deem it as a compliance. Now, if additional documents may be requested, then the court administrator is willing to likewise allow such access to these
Subject to the
documents.
rule on data privacy.
Yes, subject to the rule on data privacy.
Mr. President, ang tinatanong ko po, siya po ba ang magdidesisyon kung aling kopya ang ibibigay sa amin? Kasi po yun ang kanyang desisyon eh. Pinapunta ko po yung aking mga staff doon. 3 sila sapagkat alam ko marami pong dokumento ang nandoon sa kanyang mga notarial books. Mga 8 buwan po ang ating hinihingi. So 3, marami po yun. Ang sabi po ng clerk of court, ng RTC, sinabi raw po ng judge na, I will decide which copy is to be submitted to the office of the senator. Tama po ba yun? Wala po bang kalayaan ang mga staff ko na sila na po ang pumili? Ang balak ko lamang naman po doon na, Mr. President, establish namin sapagkat alam namin merong kamuka. Sa kalipunan po ng mga dokumentong ninotaryo, makakita lang kami 3 hanggang 10 na kamuka nung pirma na ibinigay kay Gutesa, na-establish namin talaga, hindi si Gutesa ang nameke. Talagang merong pumipirma para sa kanya. That is the only objective. But we were denied. We were denied of that purpose, Mr. President. Doon po ba sa sulat ng office administrator, court administrator, sinabi po ba niya na ang mamimili po ng sample na ibibigay sa amin ay yung mismong judge? Nakalagay po ba? Nandito po kasi sa akin yung kopya ng sulat ng office of the court administrator granting our letter request.
Yeah, according to the court administrator, the executive judge has custody over notarial documents. Yes, through the OCC.
Office of the Clerk.
Yes, the Office of the Clerk of Court. And therefore, having custody of these notarial documents, they therefore have the authority and discretion to decide which of these notarial documents, if 3 were requested, then they have authority to decide which of the 3. Now, if 20 were requested, or all documents were requested, then there would be no discretion, and this could be made available subject to the law on data privacy.
Mr. President, ang inihingi lang po namin ay yung kalayaang makita namin ang mga dokumento. Para sa ganun po makumpara namin, makita namin mula doon sa mga notarial books niya at sa mga dokumentong ninotaryo kung wala ngang isa man lang doon nakamuka o kagaya nung pumirma o pirma doon sa dokumentong dala-dala ni Gutesa. Yun lang po yung objective eh. Kasi po pagka kinontrol ng judge, nasa kanyang control talaga sapagkat napagtibay nila talaga doon sa kanyang naunang order na hindi nga pirma ng abogado. Naniniwala naman po tayo doon eh. Pangkaraniwan kasi hindi naman yung abogadong pumipirma eh. So chances are, the one assigned to be there in that office, kung sino man yon, the notary public allowed him or her to sign for her. Sa mga kapatid, hindi talaga pirma niya yon. Kaya po, ang aming objective, kaya ako humihingi ng sample, kaya ako pinapunta yung aking mga staff, para kami na yung humanap, makahanap man lang kami, nakagaya nung pirma na yon. At alam namin, meron kaming makikita. But for the judge to insist that she will be the one to select, natural lang, pipiliin niya yung hindi kagaya nung pirma kay Gutesa. I think that is very understandable, Mr. President.
I share the concern of the good senator, and because of this, I clarified with our court administrator Actually, access to all the documents, provided that it is under supervision of the clerk of court. Your staff this may be granted. Access to all the records, provided that the clerk of court is there to supervise and to monitor the the going through these documents, good Senator.
Ayun na po yung iniisip ko ngayon, Mr. President. Total, nandyan naman po yung Office of the Court Administrator. Pwede po bang yung mismong libro na ang makita ng mga staff namin mula Enero hanggang September 2025? Ma-examine lamang po.
Yes, according to the court administrator, with proper coordination, access to these documents can be granted, provided that it is under the supervision of the clerk of court and the executive judge. In other words, ilalapag dyan yung mga dokumento, yung notarial book, nariyan si executive judge, nandan ang inyong staff, nandyan yung clerk of court, at pwede pong busisiin itong mga, at i-inspect itong mga libro na ito.
Yun po kasi, Mr. President, ang pinakiusap namin para madali lang at makatulong din naman kami dahil marami namang gawain ng RTC. Nandun po yung 3 staff ko, nakabantay yung clerk of court, titingnan lamang po.
And according to the court of administrator, they will allow such access. Siguro nag-iingat lang yung executive judge at she confined the inspection to the, as requested, 3 documents. But having said that, the court administrator now is saying that yes, access to all these records can be made available upon the request, provided that the executive judge and the clerk of court is there as your staff go through the books and subject to the Data Privacy Act.
So, Mr. President, salamat po ron. Pwede po ba namin i-assume ngayon na kahit bukas, kahit na wala po kaming sulat na po sa Office of the Court Administrator, siguro po kayo na ang magno-notify sa kanila na bukas po ay pupunta po yung mga staff namin para ganun ang gawin natin.
Kahit daw po mamaya, basta office hours, pwede na daw po.
Bukas na po, nakakahiya naman po at nagmamadali tayong masyado. Bukas na po siguro, pinakamaganda na po yun.
Just that there is coordination with the court.
Opo, sana wag naman nilang itago sapagkat baka pag tinago po nila, magkakaroon po tayo ng malaking problema.
Ang ina-assure po tayo ng court administrator na hindi naman daw po dahil naroon lang daw po yun.
Salamat po, Mr. President.
Maraming salamat.
Ito po yung excerpt kasi ng resolution po ng executive judge. Kaya nakakapagbigay po ng iba yung pagdududa sa representasyong ito. Ang pinag-uusapan lang po ron, ang core issue lamang po whether or not pirma niya yun o hindi. At kung kinakailangan maproteksyonan yung integridad ng notarial service. Pero nagpakahaba-haba po yung yung executive judge. To reiterate, sabi niya po, in view of the fact that the sinumpaang salaysay contains spurious notarial details, assuming na mayroon pong kakayahan si Gutesa na siya po ay mag-i-stamp ng ganun, and a forged notary signature, and further considering that the said affidavit was presented during the Blue Ribbon public hearing, this office finds that its presenter, Mr. Gutesa, and all persons who made use of said documents not only introduced the forged and notarized inumpang salaysay, but also actively participated in its falsification. Sana naman po kayo nakakitang order na gano'n? Ako po yung nagpresente. So ako pa pala ngayon ay masasangkot sa falsification dahil sa aking paniwalang totoong sinasabi ng mama na ito, pumunta ka roon kung buwang loob mo, pero panutaryo yan, dagdag na kumpiyansa para sa akin. Ako pang nalintikan, Mr. President. Sabi pa po niya, the above-mentioned statement is an excerpt from from the resolution, and ito po pala, pasensya na po. Succinctly, it is an established rule, well buttressed upon reason, that in the absence of a satisfactory explanation when a person has in his possession or control a falsified document and who makes use of the same, the presumption of inference is justified that such person is the forger or the one who caused the forgery and therefore is therefore guilty of falsification. Mr. President, the above statement is an excerpt from the resolution of RTC Manila Executive Judge Carolina Icasiano Sison. The resolution further states that aside from Mr. Gutesa, sabi po niya, all persons who made use of said documents not only introduced the forged and notarized sinumpang salaysay, but also actively participated in its falsification. Yung sinabi ko po kanina. Did the judge abuse her discretion?
Well, according to the court administrator, it is their view that no, because there is a presumption of regularity. And if I may, well, I was listening to the good senator. Sabi kasi absent the facts, absent the evidence to the contrary, no? Or information to the contrary. Mukhang based on your explanation now and your narration, mukhang may absent nga dun sa information na which led to that ruling. That is my personal opinion as a lawyer. But according to the court administrator, because there is a presumption of regularity, then there was no abuse of discretion.
Saan po ibinase yung presumption of regularity, Mr. President? All persons who made use of said documents do not only introduce the forged and unauthorized sinumpang salaysay, but also actively participated in its falsification. Tinawag ba niya ako doon o yung mga taong nag-present ng document na yon? Wala po. Ang totoo po niyan, this representation requested a copy of her resolution. Hindi po niya ako binigyan. Ang sinabi po niya, you are not party to the case. Who is party to the case, Mr. President? Ang sabi pa po niya, she gave a copy to the Blue Ribbon Committee. So this representation, nagpakuha po, nag-request sa Blue Ribbon Committee. Sabi ng Blue Ribbon Committee, we have no copy of that resolution. So sino po binigyan niya? Regular po ba yun? Where is the presumption of regularity here? Sabi niya, hindi ako party. Hindi ko naman sinabing party po ako, but party po ako ng Blue Ribbon Committee. And I am a senator of the Republic. Hindi man lang ako bigyan ng resolution. What is so secret? What is so spectacular about this resolution? Bakit po? Why did she lie na binigyan niya Blue Ribbon Committee only to know that she did that? And then we presume that there is regularity in her action. Why? Mr. President.
Well, according to the court administrator, the executive judge, they would assume knows her responsibilities, is aware of her role, her responsibility, and the authority given to her as custodian of the said documents. And that's where the presumption of regularity of her actions kick in, Mr. President.
Mr. President, the presumption is disputable, isn't it?
Definitely, it's just a presumption.
We are disputing the presumption, Mr. President. Napakarami ko pong sinabi. We were only asking for samples within which to compare the signature in Gutesa's document. Siya pa ang mag-select until we were given now the right to examine all this. We requested for a resolution, a copy of a resolution. Ayaw po niya akong bigyan because I am not a party to it. Who is the party? I check with the intermediary of Gutesa. Ang sabi ka sa kanyang resolution, meron daw po sabina kay Gutesa. The family said there was no notice, there was no subpoena that reached our residence. Ito po ang nangyayari. May problema po ba tayo, Mr. President? Dapat po siguro tinutulungan natin ang mga taong nagkukusa para tumulong, para hanapin ang katotohanan. Kahit na malagay sa alanganin, sa panganib ang kanyang buhay. Pero anong nakuha niya? Sino po ngayon ang magnanais pa na lumabas kahit may nalalaman siya na tumulong para matuntun natin kung sino may kasalanan? Walang iniwan sa isang tao na pumunta sa barangay, Mr. President. Nagsumbong. Yung pong taong yon, Mr. Barangay Captain, magnanakaw po yun ang kalabaw. Alam po ninyo kung sino yung diniscredit, kung sino yung inusig. Yung nagsumbong na may magnanakaw ng kalabaw. Yung magnanakaw ng kalabaw, hindi man lang.
Mr. President, I share the frustration of Senator Marcoleta. I remember the case of the ZTE-NBN, wherein the whistleblower ended up being the one convicted. Yes, this is most unfortunate when instances wherein those who are who wish to testify or witnesses are suffer such a unfortunate situation.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court, time and again, has admonished notaries who fully entrusted the notarization process to their office secretaries, like what happened here, and has even deemed it as gross negligence on their part, as in the case of Castello versus Ching, AC number 11165, February 6, 2017. Ang sabi po ng Korte Suprema ay ganito: gross negligence on the part of a notary public encompasses the failure to observe any of the requirements of a notarial act under the 2004 rules of notarial service, notarial practice, which would result in putting the rights of a person to his liberty or property in jeopardy. This includes, among others, failing to require the presence of the signatories to a notarial instrument and ascertaining their identities through competent evidence thereof, and allowing knowingly or unknowingly people other than notary public himself to sign notarial documents, affix the notarial seal therein, and make entries in the notarial register. This is what exactly happened. This notary public allowed their signature to be signed by others. To use their notarial seal by others and make entries in the notarial register. Hindi siya mismo. Isipin po niyo yung lugar niya. Pinakunan namin ng litrato. Ano po yung nakapaskel doon sa isang maliit na opisina na yun? Tabi ng kalsada. Dikit-dikit ang mga notarial offices. Alam po ba niyo yung nakalagay na sign? Affidavit. Notarial affidavit. 24/7. So hindi na natutulog yung abogada ron kung siya nga yung nandun. Ilan na po ang mga notaryo publiko ang na-admonish o kaya nasuspindi o kaya nasira, inalis sa notarial practice, Mr. President. Kasi po ang kanilang mga sekretarya na lang o mga staff ang talagang, yun naman po ang nangyayari, kalakaran na po yun eh. I think even the Supreme Court can take judicial notice of this particular industry.
Our apologies, good Senator. I was just clarifying a matter regarding whether or not Attorney Espera
Opo.
did delegate. Of course, that is a accusation or a allegation, rather. And if proved to be true, then definitely Espera should be held to account for that. And therefore, perhaps one's route should be to ask to have Attorney Espera, the notarial, the notary public, to explain whether or not she in fact did that. Of course,
Kasi po, Mr. President, yung ninotaryohan na kontrata ng PESA, ganun din po yung pirma. Si Attorney... Sino yung Comelec? Sino yung Comelec? Romy Macalintal. Nung makita niya po yung dokumento ni Gutesa na yung pirma gano'n, kapareho din ito yung mga ipinresent nila rito, yung intervenor sa isang barangay. Ang dami po nito. Kapareho din po yun eh. Kaya po, tinatanong ko, ilan na po yung nasuspindi kaya? Ilan na yung na-reprimand? Ilan na yung kinastigo ng Korte Suprema? Baka naman po, mangilan-ngilan lang, kaya po siguro naging cottage industry na po ito eh. Gaano po tayo kaingat yung pagbabantay sa ganitong mga ginagawa ng ating mga abogadong nagnonotaryo po, Mr. President?
according to the court administrator, marami na raw na suspend, no? Na notary public dahil dito sa ganitong mga hindi tamang mga kilos at very serious ang Korte Suprema sa ganitong mga usapin when it comes to notarial commissions and such acts, such malpractices.
Gano'n na po kaya karami, Mr. President? Kasi po kung ibabatay natin sa mga notary publics na nagkalat na po, parang mga kabuti na nagsulputan sa napakaraming mga lugar, lalong-lalo na po sa mga mataong lugar. Ganyan lang po sa City Hall po, wag na tayong lumayo, makikita po ninyo yung dikit-dikit na nagnunotaryo na wala po kayong makikitang abogado ron. Yung iba po, itatakbo pa nga sa isang skinita. Pagkatapos, hintayin mo ako riyan. Pagkatapos mong magbayad ng kaulang halaga, tsaka niya ibabalik sa'yo. Gano'n po karami?
Wala daw po ngayon, right now, ang numero. They will be submitting.
So, Mr. President, ina-assume po natin yung dami po ng nagnunotaryo ngayon na dikit-dikit sa paligid ng mga city halls ng ating bansa. Lahat po ba yon ang pumipirma yung mga abogado?
Under the law and the commission, dapat.
Dapat
Now,
po.
Yes.
Pero sa nangyayari, sa totoong buhay, sila po ba yung nandoon na nagnunotaryo, Mr. President?
Well, dapat din under the law, pero yung realidad,
Hindi po, hindi ba?
maaaring ang merong dinedelegate.
Yun nga po eh. Si Gutesa ay biktima po rito. Siya po yung nabiktima rito. Pero siya ngayon ang kakasuhan ng falsification, ng perjury. Ang tanging kasalanan niya ay lumabas lamang at nagpasya para tulungan ang Estado hanapin kung sino ang utak ng makawalang hiya ang nangyari sa ating bansa. Mr. President, mag-iba naman po tayo ng area. Medyo na-high blood po si Congressman Sherwin. Kapag kaibigan ko po kasi yan, pagka yan hindi kumikibo, ako po medyo kinakabahan. Senator pala, pasensya ka na. Ako na high blood hata. Kamakailan po ay nagpalabas po at nag-approve ang ating Korte Suprema, Mr. President, ng Rules on Extradition Proceedings, which I think took effect on November 10, 2025. Tama po ba yun, Mr. President?
That is correct, Senator Marcoleta.
May I know, Mr. President, that, or do these rules apply only when there is an existing extradition treaty between the Philippines and the requesting state?
That the court administrator says yes, answers in the affirmative.
In the absence of an extradition treaty, Mr. President, is there any legal process that the Philippines may rely on to surrender a Filipino citizen?
Apart from a treaty between two states, if there are conventions that we are party to as a member state, such as
So the lack of it, Mr. President, completely bar any form of extradition or surrender by implication.
by way of extradition, yes.
Okay. The rules refer to a requesting state with whom the Philippines has an extradition treaty. If the requesting entity is not a state per se, Mr. President, such as the international tribunals, o sabihin na nating ICC, do these rules still apply?
Strictly speaking, no, because the ICC is not a state.
So where do we stand now? Because ICC is not a state, and we have our own constitution. And there is, for example, a warrant of arrest issued by the ICC. But under our constitution, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty of property without due process of law. Which will prevail, the ICC or our own constitution?
Yes, as earlier manifested by the court administrator, the extradition treaty, the extradition rules does not apply to the ICC, but there may be other international conventions or agreements that the Philippines is a party to that may apply. But again, they have not identified which of these possible conventions, which of these conventions, if any, would be applicable.
Wala naman international conventions, Mr. President. As a matter of fact, the Philippines just withdrew from the Rome Statute. Anong basis nila ngayon? Ang nakalagay po sa ating, meron po tayong batas Republic Act 9851 po yata yun, if I'm not mistaken. Na pwede mo lamang i-process for extradition or surrender or whatever it is. First of all, what is the difference between surrender and extradition? Except for the spelling, Mr. President.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. I was clarifying with the indulgence of the senator.
Yes.
What was the?
Ano po yung pagkakaiba bukod sa spelling ng extradition at surrender in the context of Republic Act 9851?
Well, the international humanitarian law is a law applicable to the Philippines. And it's between the state and its citizens as well as other parties, while the extradition treaty is a treaty between two states. So surrender or extradition will take different meanings given these three or four different, how do you call it, rules. So rules on extradition proceeding will be, is defined thereat, while the international humanitarian law in terms of surrender under that law will also be defined by the provisions of that law.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, if I will disagree. Yung extradition, mabagal po yun. Yung surrender, mabilis. Kaya po nang ginawa kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Does the principle of complementarity allow the Philippines to decline surrender on the ground that domestic institutions are able and willing to investigate and prosecute?
Yes, the court administrator is constrained to reply with the questions, a number of the questions raised, but she assures the good senator that she will answer as best she can, given the limitations that the matter is sub judice. And we have three justices of the Supreme Court present here who are currently hearing a number of cases by petitioner, our colleague, Senator Bato de la Rosa. So in that regard, they beg the indulgence of the good senator that it being sub judice, they would refrain from giving opinions outside of the rules on extradition proceedings.
Mr. President, am I made to understand that we can only request for, let's say, clarifications or answers lingering in our minds from the court in the actual litigation and not in a case like this where this is also a good chance to be able to take advantage of the teaching function of the Supreme Court. Kailangan bang nasa korte tayong lahat and there is an active case being litigated? Is this not a proper forum for the Supreme Court to also advise us, to help us in the context of being able to, let's say, lay down the foundation of a budget that will cater to most people?
In this case, according to the court administrator, they are not, they are prohibited from of issuing opinions on a case that is pending before it, and that they are limited to rendering opinions within the parameters and framework of the pending case.
Bakit naman parang selective, Mr. President? Alam po ninyo, napakaraming mga ongoing cases. Yung mga abogado po, palagi pong napagsasabihan, lalo na po yung mga trial lawyers na yung ating sub judice. Talaga pong, kung kayo po ay nag-aaral pa lang ng batas, first year ka pa lang, alam nyo na yung sub judice. Talagang, Sir President, pangangatawanan mo yan eh. Pagka ang isang kaso ay talagang dinidinig na, huwag kayong magko-comment. Estudyante ka pa lang, ha? Huwag kang magko-comment. Kasi baka napakagaling mo, ma-impluensya mo yung Korte Suprema. Di ba, Mr. President? We rely on the objectivity, the competence, and the fortitude of the members of the Supreme Court. They are there because of that. May influensya mo po ba? Can we influence the good justices of the Supreme Court?
It is not a matter of whether the justices can be influenced or not, but more that if they issue opinions outside of the process that is of the case that is pending, that it may affect their standing in terms of the perception that they may be partial for one or another party. So therefore, they refrain from providing legal opinions on matters that are sub judice.
Hindi po ganun ang aking pagkakaintindi, Mr. President. Ang mga justices ng Korte Suprema, kahit nasan sila, kahit nasa palengke sila, nasa punerarya, kung nasa man, hindi magbabago yun. Ang batas palaging ganun. Kahit anong sabihin natin, our opinion will not even matter. Ang pinag-uusapan natin ay kung paano tayo makakahingi ng konting tulong sa kanila upang lahat ng ating alalahanin ngayon para hindi nagtatalo-talo. Halimbawa, mabigyan nyo na kami ng pangunahing guideline. Halimbawa, bakit naman po kung halimbawa retired justice na ng Korte Suprema, aktibo yung kaso, pinag-uusapan pa lang. Meron silang column sa dyaryo. Pero nagsusulat pa rin sila eh. Pero sila yung unang nagsabi sa amin, wag ninyo yuyurakan ng subjudice. Mananagot kayo dyan. Pero kapag ka sila, dahil ba retiradong Supreme Court justices na sila, malaya na silang magkomento? Ano yun tinuturo ninyo? Hindi rin nangyayari. Meron po mga double standards, Sir President. Salamat po. Magpapasalamat na lamang po ako dahil sa napagbigyan ako na ang aking pong mga staff, Mr. President, ay pinayagan ng ating court administrator. Mabigyan sila ng pagkakataon na sa tulong po ng clerk of court ng RTC na pinag-uusapan natin, mahimay nila po yung mga dokumento para sa ganon ay masettle po natin ang usaping ito at madali nating matuntun po talaga ang tunay na pangyayari sa likod ng kontrobersy na bumalot doon sa isang notaryadong dokumento. Maraming salamat po sa panahon, Mr. President, Mr. Chair. Maraming salamat po sa inyo.
Maraming salamat din po, Ginoong Senator Dante Marcoleta, for your
Majority
interpretation.
Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, next to propound some questions to the Supreme Court or the judiciary is no other than Senate President Pro Temp, Senator Panfilo Lacson.
The President Pro Temp is recognized, Senator Ping Lacson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the distinguished sponsor yield to this representation for a few clarificatory questions?
Most willingly to my Senate Mista of 2001.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is not the first time that I'll be raising this issue. No? I have always asked this, even during past budget deliberations or debates on the budget of the judiciary. Why is, the judiciary is an equal branch of government, no? Ng executive branch at saka ng Congress. Laging kinu-question ko bakit nasa 1% lamang ng share ng the whole pie of the general appropriations or the whatever proposed budget there is. In this case, the judiciary is allotted 67.66 billion out of the 6.793 trillion, which constitutes 0.985%, not even 1% of the entire proposed budget for 2026. Now, chinek po namin, yung para tingnan natin kung ubra yung apples to apples, per capita. Yung judiciary, meron silang, and please correct me if I'm wrong, meron silang 41,609 permanent positions. Is that a correct figure, Mr. President?
More or less.
More or less. Okay.
That is correct.
So with the budget of 67.66 billion, per capita, nasa 1,628,638.04. Yun ang kanilang per capita in terms of budgetary allocation. Congress, with 7,329 permanent positions, meron silang per capita lumalabas 5,258,561. So a little over 20% lang kung ikukumpara natin do sa Congress, no, yung budget ng judiciary. Now, my question is, well, sa executive medyo nagkakalapit dahil ang laki naman. At tingin ko bloated itong yung permanent position sa executive branch, 1,990,114. So, kung i-compare do sa kanilang appropriations, 1,788,532 kung per capita. Now, ang tanong ko is, which PAPs, no, programs, activities, and projects will be sacrificed or won't be given priority given the small budget allocation as proposed sa judiciary, Mr. President?
Well, immediately, as mentioned earlier, the infrastructure, the buildings for Cagayan de Oro, yes, earlier we mentioned the different infrastructure projects, Makati, Cagayan de Oro, and Manila will be funded, but Makati and
Yes.
will not. The other is the personnel services will suffer because
Wala tayong PS MO ilan to?
yes.
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 Ang binibigay sa kanila as proposed, capital outlays 2.454 billion. So magkano yung requirement nila to fulfill yung sinasabi nilang nakaprogram or they want to prioritize sa kanilang mga infrastructure projects para sa capital outlay na 2.454 billion, magkano yung discrepancy o magkano yung tawag dito? Yung kukulangin if they want to
Yes.
construct those buildings.
The deficit is
deficit,
8.5 billion worth of infrastructure programs will not be implemented in 2026. That would be Makati, Lapu-Lapu City, Cebu City, and Cagayan de Oro City. The only amount that was allocated was for the Manila Justice Hall.
And they're capable of absorbing. They're capable of. They're ready to construct those buildings if they will be given enough capital outlay, Mr. President.
The
Or
court
hindi rin sila
administrator
ready?
says yes, they are ready.
Yeah. Thank you for the information, Mr. President. So, ang MOE nila is 1.34 billion. Locally funded projects, 9 billion. Ano po ito mga nakalista under locally funded projects? Baka naman kasama na dyan sa nakalinya nila ipapagawa.
The locally funded projects would be to include subsidy to the IBP, construction, completion, and or repair of halls of justice nationwide, justice sector convergence program, strategic plan for judicial innovations, development and social lawyering, PCB on sustainable development goals. What is PCB? What is PCB? Programs, convergence, budgeting on sustainable development goals, bar examinations, and Sharia bar examinations. These are the ano pa ba? Locally funded projects.
How much did they ask during the budget call?
How much? Saan? How much? Sure. How much? How much? The budget call, 20.7 billion. Locally funded projects.
No, yung total po. Ang binigyan sila ng 67.66. So, how much did they ask the DBM or DBCC during the budget call? Well, they're only given 67.66.
90 billion, 90.741 billion.
19?
90.
So, ang deficit nila is around 11? Tama ba yun? 90, no,
68,
more.
78,
Mga,
88,
yeah, 20 plus.
20 plus billion.
And what was the reason given to them by the DBCC, the economic managers? But ang laki ng cut.
What was the reason given?
Yeah, this is for the entire judiciary.
Yes, the walang kamatayang lack of fiscal space. So that was the reason why they cut the budget by as much as budget request by as much as 20 billion. Lack of fiscal space.
Yeah, pero ba't ang laki ng mga allocable? Hindi ba sila kasama sa allocable?
Yes, that is correct, and that's why we were able to allocate outside of the allocable and put it in other various departments and agencies.
Do you have a copy of the allocable and non-allocable as requested to be included in the NEP? Ang meron lang po ako 2025 eh. I don't have a copy for the 2026
Do we have?
NEP.
For the judiciary, you mean? Sorry.
For the entire.
Oh,
Baka yung chairman ng Committee on Finance, baka may kopya siya nung allocable. Of course, we're against the allocable, no? And we're trying to abolish that sa susunod na mga budget.
The chairman of the Committee on
Proposals.
Finance may be able to
But
answer
maybe
the question.
the chairman of the Committee on Finance has a copy of the request for the allocable and non-allocable. Meron po ba tayo niyan? Meron.
that would be beyond my pay grade as a vice chairman. And as correctly pointed out by the Senate President, we will seek guidance from our chairman.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but may I know if it's not included the budget, no? The income that the Supreme Court
JDF
generates?
is not included. That's
It's not
off
included,
budget,
di ba?
Mr. President.
Mga magkano yun?
That we don't know.
The average a year. The average collections from the JDF would amount to about 2 billion a year.
Maliit. Maliit din. So,
These are legal fees.
yes. Anyway, so much for that, Mr. President. Anyway, we can get the official records later. You know, on another topic, I understand that the Judicial Integrity Board has been abolished upon the expiration of the term or terms of the chairperson and its members. And it's now being replaced by the Judicial Integrity Office. No? My question is the Judicial Integrity Office fully organized?
It is not fully organized. The head of the board, no? Of the office is still in an acting
Yeah,
capacity.
Wala na po yung board, inabolish na nila. And it's now being replaced. Ito, Judicial Integrity Office. The reason why I asked this question is I'm sure there's a budgetary requirement so it can be fully organized and to make it fully operationalized.
Yes. Prior to the what is this now? Office. Prior to the office, while the Judiciary Integrity Board was existent, They had been repeatedly asking Congress for budgetary support, but this was always denied.
Now that it is an office, maybe this time around, do you have any idea how much would this new office entail to be fully not maski even not fully operationalized para lang tawag dito ma-organize na?
According to Justice Villanueva, about 250
Million.
250 million.
Million. Maybe nasa ba yung chairman natin nagtago na?
The chairman is securing the allocable and locable information, I think.
Wag na muna yung local. Mr. Chairman, para ma-operationalize yung Judicial Integrity Office, 250 million lang. Palagay ko, meron tayo makukuha niyan, ano? So they can start organizing. I'm interested in this because, Mr. President, you know, kasama ito sa tinatawag nating signs of the times, no? Dahil as the nomenclature suggests, Judicial Integrity Board or Office, no, this will be primarily tasked to promote integrity and to address the issues of corruption within the judiciary. Am I correct, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman?
That is correct, and I support the direction of the questions of Senator
Kasi
Lacson.
while the consciousness is high, ano, in addressing corruption, maybe this is the proper time to assist the Supreme Court or the judiciary to, to organize immediately the Judicial Integrity Office. So, hindi tayo narinig ng chairman, 250 million, Mr. President, can you answer for the chairman? Of the Finance Committee, I mean.
Chairman of the Finance Committee.
It is not, well, according to the chairman, it is not in the original proposal.
I know, but we can, during the period of amendments, we can introduce amendment in the amount of only 250 million, considering that we're talking hundreds of billions, just yesterday.
The chairman of the committee is nodding his head, and
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. President. Now, so settled na yon. Another topic, Mr. President, yung sa mga backlogs. What is the total number of case backlogs in the entire judiciary, Mr. President?
Statistics. This is pending, and then this is the total caseload. So the disposition rate is 46% for the lower ones.
for the lower courts, the number of the total caseload is 826,000. Pending is 616,000,
Naku po.
and so the backlog or pending cases are about 46%.
When you say backlog, ano po yung criteria? Ano yung methodology, no, na ginagamit sa pag-define natin o pag-determine ng case backlog? I understand there's a timeline or standard timeline
Yeah.
to dispose of cases, di ba?
Yes, the court administrator says correct. There is a timeline.
So kung pag sinabing backlog, lampas sa timeline, sa standard na timeline.
That is correct.
And out of 826,000, more than 600,000 yung case backlog.
That is correct. The timeline is 180 days, working days.
And what's the average beyond the timeline? Ano yung average na period sa mga backlogs? Just the average, Mr. President.
About, 180 days is the timeline, but so 2 years. So 2 years would be the average backlog.
And 180 days is just about 6 months, di ba? Ano?
Yes,
Yeah, 6 months. Tapos 2 years.
medyo mahaba.
Now, how would they address this problem, Mr. President? Kasi common complaint ito, especially among those among the families of the uh, respondents who are incarcerated, for some reason, maybe unbailable or walang financial capacity to post bail. Tapos kung 2 years, baka mag-serve sentence yan, tapos ma-acquit eventually. I think that's a grave injustice.
Yes, that is correct. According to to Justice Villanueva, there are several factors that contribute to these delays. But because of their amendments to their rules on procedure, napabilis na nga ito. If I understand correctly, the average case life today would be about 4.5 years, no? In the first level court. But it's still long, no? 4.5 years is beyond the 180 days. So, but it used to be, at least 20 years ago, 6 years. The average, during my watch as a member of the JBC, I remember the court administrator then provided us the information that the shelf life of first level court cases reached 6 years. So if it's now 4.5, it's still long, pero bumaba na.
Does the budget have anything to do with the backlog problem or the backlog issue in the judiciary, Mr. President? Wala naman siguro.
Yes, for example, the strategic plan for judiciary innovation, if funded, will help speed up the disposition of cases. Providing technology, I think maybe even, well, at least during the budget hearings, the increase in the number of courts. For example, in Metro Manila, if I'm not mistaken, the ratio is for every 41,000 people population, you have one judge. But it's much lower, for example, in other regions. And therefore, if it's 41,000, if they added more courts, then mapapababa yung population to court ratio, and therefore, consequently, mapapabilis. Mabababa yung caseload, mapapabilis ang disposition of cases.
Thank you for the response, Mr. President. Medyo complicated na. Anyway, that's just about what I have for the judiciary, Mr. President.
If I may just add to what I was earlier saying about budgetary support, I remember, and we were discussing this with Justices Villanueva, Marquez, Lopez. When I was still Judiciary and Bar Council representative of the Senate, the Supreme Court, the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the President signed a memorandum of agreement forming the Judiciary Executive Legislative Advisory Council. At that time, it met twice. The composition then was the President, the Speaker of the House, the Senate President, and the Chief Justice. And when it met twice, once in Malacanang and the other time in the Supreme Court, within that period of 2 years, from 2008 to 2010, we were able to increase the judiciary budget by as much as 30% at that time. If I may suggest, and I shared it with current Senior Associate Justice Marvic Lonen, that perhaps it's now is time to revive that Judiciary Executive Legislative Advisory Council for the purpose of precisely addressing the budgetary requirements of the judiciary. After all, as earlier pointed out by the good senator, it is 1/3 of the government. It is a third branch, and co-equal branch at that, but it is getting less than 1% of the entire national budget.
Yeah. Anyway, Mr. President, with the passage of RA 12233, yung Judicial Autonomy Act, hindi na sila dadaanan ng BCC, diretso na sila sa Congress. So they can propose their own budget and then deal with Congress.
Yes.
That's for 2027, no? May implement yan.
So it will be for, just to clarify, That will be for the 2026 budget debates.
2027 na yan.
Yes, 2027 budget, but the budget debates begin in 2026.
Yes.
So that's next year.
But my point is, hindi na sila dadan sa DBCC. They only have to deal. They will propose their own budget and they will deal directly with Congress.
Yes.
So wala na yung layer na tinitipid sila. Kasi I'm just wondering, they were asking for 90 billion, tapos bibigyan lang sila ng 67. At sinasabi nga, kulang. But as we know, no, yung ibang mga departments, executive departments, parang wallowing in allocations.
Yes,
So anyway,
we fully support the concerns and the proposal to add more for the judiciary. As I said earlier, again, yung ating mga hearings sa Blue Ribbon, investigation, fact-finding, in aid of legislation, pero lahat ng mga scandal na iniimbestigan ng Blue Ribbon, eventually, ang talagang huling stopover, actually yung huling destination, ay nasa korte. And I will place this on record, and I did this during the budget hearings, during the budget hearing of the judiciary. Ang sinisigaw ng tao ngayon ay wala namang nakukulong, wala namang nasesentensyahan. And of course, that is the judiciary, the challenge to the judiciary, and therefore we really want to support the augmentation of the judiciary budget to be able to achieve that.
yeah. Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, distinguished sponsor. At least may na-accomplish tayo. Meron tayong 250 million na pwede kaagad makapag-organize ng Judicial Integrity Office. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Lacson. Maraming salamat.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Senator.
This is not exactly from left field, but out of curiosity. How do you disbar a member of the court? How do you disbar a lawyer? What are the reasons for disbarring somebody?
Well, there's a difference between a lawyer being disbarred and a judge being dismissed, no?
Doon muna ako sa lawyer being disbarred.
The complaint may be filed before the Integrated Bar of the Philippines or the Supreme Court.
And that is the how. Why? I want to know the whys.
The basis for the complaints, or at least the allegations, should allege misconduct, corruption, bribery, gross immorality, among others. So it's a wide array because of the hindi lang po criminal case, immorality or gross inefficiency would also be a basis to disbar a lawyer.
All right. Bribery, bribery.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you,
Majority Leader.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, next to propound some questions to the Supreme Court, to the judiciary's Senator Robin Hood Padilla. May we recognize the judge?
Senator Robin Padilla is recognized.
Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo, at sa atin pong pinunong mayorya. Nais ko lamang pong malaman sa ating pong sponsor kung maaari pong magbigay ng konting katanungan.
Maaari po, maaring-maari kay Ginoong Senator Padilla.
Maraming salamat po. Noong 2024 po, ang atin pong Pangulo ay meron pong pinirmahan na batas. Ito po yung patungkol sa pagdaragdag ng Sharia Court. Ito po yung inaantay po ng mga kapatid po ninyong mga Muslim. Ito po yung 3 Sharia Judicial Districts at 12 Sharia Secret Courts. Gusto ko lamang pong malaman po kung ano po ang status po nito. Kung ito po ba ay inaasahan na nating gumagana na. Baka po kailangan ng funding po niyan. Tamang-tama po. Nandito na po sila. Nandito na po ang chairman.
Eksakto po. Funding nga po ang kinakailangan para mabuksan itong applications sa JBC at mabigyan na ng appointments itong mga bagong Sharia courts.
Pwede po malaman kung meron na po bang proposal na budget dyan upang mabraso na po natin ang ating chairman ng finance.
Magkano ba kailangan? May we have a minute suspension just to get the information?
Session suspended.
Yes. Sa tanong na bagong binuo na
Sharia courts po.
court na tatlo,
Opo, tatlo pong district tsaka 12 circuit po.
30 district.
Tatlo po. Tatlo pong
district,
Opo.
sorry.
Tsaka 12 circuit po.
So ang nakalagay sa budget ay dalawa lamang. Opo, dalawa lang. Sa halip na tatlo. Tama?
Okay. Bakit po nabawasan?
Additional. So kung isasama yung pangatlo, magdadagdag ng another 200 million.
Kailangan po ng 200 milyon.
So para tatlo ang
Para tatlo, opo. Napakahalaga po kasi na maisagawa po kung ano yung nasasaad sa batas. At hinihingi po natin sa ating pong chairman ng finance na mapagbigyan din po ang mga kapatid niyo pong Muslim na bigyan po ng 200 milyon na budget po ang ating Supreme Court para po maisagawa na po ang batas pong isinulong ni Senator Mig Subiri.
Yes, we will appeal to the chairman of the committee to try and figure out where we can get the additional 200 million so that the 3 rather than 2 Sharia courts can now be open for appointment.
Opo. Opo, alam niyo po kasi sa ngayon po, ang mga kapatid niyo pong Muslim ay nasa iba't ibang lugar na po ng Pilipinas. Katunayan, basta may palengke po dyan, meron po dyan mga Muslim na Maranao, meron pong Tausug dyan, may Yakan po dyan. Napakalaking bagay po kapag ito pong batas na ito ay maisagawa na po natin. Opo, at nandito naman po yung ating chairman. Chairman, 200 million po.
Sinabi po ng ating majority leader na nakausap po niya si Chairman Win at si Chairman Win ay nagsabing okay at ngayon nag-oo si Chairman Win doon sa halagang 200 milyon.
Opo. Maraming salamat po patungkol dyan. At meron din po uling pinirmahan ang ating pong Pangulo. Pero hindi pa po nagagawa po ang IRR nito. Ito naman po yung digitalization. Kapipirma lang po niya ito noong September. Pero baka po sa 2027 budget na po ito. Opo. Sa ibang tanong naman po, kamusta po yung personnel po ng sa Sharia Court? Dati po kasi nagkakaroon ng problema, suliranin, dahil sa batas po, sa konstitusyon at doon po sa BOL, nakalagay po doon, kailangan sila po ay Sharia lawyer at the same time sila po ay membro ng bar. Opo, gusto ko lamang pong malaman kung kamusta po yung mga nag-a-apply po ng ating mga judges po.
Meron kasing mga batas na nag-create ng Sharia courts na ang requirement para sa Sharia circuit lang. Yung iba naman ay kinakailangan abogado rin. So,
Meron po bang problema sa mga nag-a-apply po o kompleto na po?
mas attractive daw kasi yung regular courts na at bilang miyembro ng bar. Kaya mas marami ang doon napupunta.
Okay po. So wala pong problema na sa mga nag-apply po?
Wala namang problema na ano lang, kakaunti lang ang nag-a-apply.
Opo.
So
Mananawagan
kakaunti lang
po
ang
ako dyan.
mapagpipilian.
Opo, mananawagan po ako dyan sa ating mga kapatid para mapunuan po yung napakagandang batas po na yan. Opo.
Yes, malaking bagay po yun pagka si Senator Robin Padilla ang nanawagan. Palagay ko marami po silang makukumbinsi.
Maraming salamat po. Sa ibang topic naman po, ginoong sponsor. Opo. Noong September 19 po, ang nagbigay po ang pahayag ang Supreme Court at ang Pilipinas na tayo po ay hindi na po miyembro ng ICC. Noong September 21, September 2021 yata po yun. 2021, sinasabi na meron pa rin po tayong pananagutan sa ICC. Ang tanong ko po, ang bansang Hungary po, noong June 2025, sila po ay kumalas sa ICC para po sa pagbisita sa kanila ni Prime Minister Netanyahu at hindi po nila hulihin si Netanyahu. Ang tanong ko po, yung po bang kaso ni Senator Bato, kung totoo po, kasi hanggang ngayon po wala pa rin pong kasiguraduhan kung mayroong warrant of arrest talaga o wala. Kapag hindi po ba natin surrender si Senator Bato, meron po ba tayong sasagutin sa ICC? Yun lang po, wala naman po. Yun lang po ang tanong ko. Meron po ba tayong sagot doon kung hindi natin siya isusurrender?
Gaya ng nabanggit kanina nung nagtatanong si Senator Dante Marcoleta tungkol dito sa kaso ng ating kasamahan na si Senator Bato de la Rosa, mayroong limitasyon ng ating mga justice ng Korte Suprema na kapag ang isang kaso ay pending at mayroong petisyon ng ating kasamahan before the Supreme Court, ay dahil sa sub-judice ruling, hindi po sila maaaring magbigay ng opinion at pahayag sa labas nung kaso mismo. At yung doon lamang po sila maaaring magbigay ng komento sa kanilang mga desisyon.
Maraming salamat po. Wala po ako magagawa. Si Senator Marcoleta nga tumahimik eh. Opo, di tatahimik na rin po ako. Sa isang isa pong hiwalay pong topic, last topic po. Napanood ko po sa isang TV program ang isa po nating masasabing dating kalihim at dati din po nating kaibigan. Sinabi po niya na ang batas, we can bend the law, ang sabi niya. Ang tanong ko po, ako po kasi ay naniwala sa batas. Ako po ay 3 taon nakakulong. Pinabayaan ko po na I served my sentence dahil naniniwala po ako sa batas. Ang tanong ko po, pwede po ba yun?
Well, merong kasabihan na Latin maxim na dura lex, sed lex. Di ba? The law may be harsh, but it is the law. Ibig sabihin, masakit man, di ba? Ang sinasabi ng batas, yan ang batas. At kung akong tatanungin, hindi maaring baluktutin. Kasi Ben, baluktot.
Opo. Kasi yun po yung napanood ko sa TV na pwede daw pong baluktutin na parang ruler. Opo.
So, ang sa aking opinion, hindi maaaring baluktutin ang batas. Ngayon, maaaring baka ang interpretasyon nila ay hindi naman nating we are not breaking the law, we are only bending it. Pero gaya nga ng nasasabi ng napakarami, pag may 2 o 3 abogado sa isang kwarto, 3, 4 o 5 o 6 ang opinion sa isang usapin. So yun po. May kanya-kanyang opinion ang ating mga abogado, but of course, sa huling banda, ang final arbiter nga ng lahat ng interpretasyon ng batas ay ang ating mga korte.
Opo. Sa mataas pong hukuman, hindi po. Hindi po pwede.
Well, ako na lang po ang sasagot. Hindi ito opinion ng Korte Suprema. Opinion ko po ito. Hindi ho pwede.
Maraming salamat po. Yun lamang po. Mabuhay po kayo. Opo.
Maraming salamat kay Ginoong Senator Robin Padilla at maganda po ang kanyang mga naimungkahi na madagdagan ang pondo para ma-establish na at magkaroon na ng dagdag na Sharia courts, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next, to propound some questions to the judiciary is no other than our good colleague, Senator Jingo Estrada.
Senator Jingo Estrada, second.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the good sponsor of the budget of the judiciary yield to just a few questions?
Most willingly to our colleague, Senator Jingo Estrada.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. With regard to the pending cases of the judiciary, may I know what is the average number of cases that they handle every year? In a year?
For lower courts in a year?
Yeah.
Yes, pumapasok. May we have a minute suspension?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Session suspended.
Yeah.
Latest data, the average for a year would be close to 700,000 cases. For example, in January to December 2024, the total new cases filed was 698,541 for first and second level courts. This is RTC and MTC. Now, for January to June 2025 this year, we are now at 373,148 cases filed.
All right. May I know how many cases are pending before the courts, Mr. Chair?
Total cases pending before the first and second level, total case load as of June, from January to June 2025 is 1,016,000 cases. 1,016,354 cases.
That is the RTC and the MTC?
First
Only.
level and second level courts.
Bakit napakadami? 1 million plus?
It says here, total case load.
No, what about the pending cases?
May we have a minute suspension?
All right. Session suspended, Mr. President.
Session suspended.
In order to expedite the budget hearing of the budget of the judiciary, maybe we can request the committee to just submit
Yes,
the documents that I've been asking for.
we will submit the report, specifically the number of the caseload last year, and then the caseload this year as of June. In the first level, second level, Court of Tax Appeals, Sandigan Bayan, Court of Appeals, and the Supreme Court. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Jinggoy.
Thank you. Dahil sabi po ni Senator, our majority floor leader kanina, bakit mo ba tinatanong yun? Ba't mo pinabibilis yung kaso mo? Baka mauna raw ako. So hindi ko na siguro tatanungin. Anyway, Mr. President, there are 41,587 permanent positions in the judiciary. May I know what is the reason for the 12,000 plus permanent positions that remain unfilled as of 2024?
Some are newly created positions, 12,000 of the 12,000 vacancies, and some are being processed for filling up. But I agree with the distinguished senator that that's a huge amount of vacancies, considering that's more than a fourth or about 1/4,
Are these
25%.
RTC, MTC? or all, including the
For all,
all.
positions.
including the Court of Appeals, Court of Tax Appeals, and Digan Bayan?
That is correct, for all courts.
Do they plan to fill it up?
Yes,
All of these 12,000 permanent positions
yes, that is what they are saying.
in a year's time?
Yes, some cases are brought about by retirement or promotion or resignation or termination, which then creates these vacancies. In fact, I shared that with the JBC and the budget hearing that there has to be a catch-up plan to fill up these vacancies. Otherwise, baka they're just running in place. Habang nag-a-appoint at nagkakaroon ng new appointees, meron namang vacancy na nade-declare. No? So, that is the answer, sir.
All right. With regard to the COA findings, I am informed that the auditor rendered an adverse opinion on the fairness of the presentation of the financial statements of the Supreme Court as of December 31, 2024, due to various accounting errors and omissions amounting to 12.2 billion. May I know the explanation on this audit observation?
May we have a minute suspension, Mr. President?
Session suspended.
According to Justice Villanueva and the court administrator, the COA findings of 2024, they have actually sat down with the Commission on Audit in a meeting and wherein they discussed these findings and they were asked to submit their explanation and compliance, and they have submitted this. So they are now awaiting the final report of the Commission on Commission on Audit. But for your honors, how do you call it? To respond to your questions, they are willing to submit the report that they submitted to the Commission on Audit.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, with regard to the gender and development, may I know what is the status of your spending for gender and development, persons with disabilities and senior citizens for 2024? Do you have a report on the utilization of the gender and development budget?
Utilization.
Well, the 5% is what is required. Yes. Accord. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes, according to our court administrator and the judiciary, they are actually compliant with the requirement of the law in terms of 5% utilization to fulfill with the gender and the allocations are as follows. For 2025, it's more than 5%, it's 7.27%. For the Sandigan Bayan, they're saying that it's about 36% for gender and development budgetary appropriate or support, Mr. President.
Thank you for the information, Mr. President. Last two questions, Mr. President. Mr. President, the Supreme Court issued a ruling declaring the impeachment complaint against the Vice President Sara Duterte unconstitutional last July 25, 2025. Am I correct?
That is correct, Mr. President.
And some of our colleagues, some senators, criticized that such decision undermines the separation of powers. Does the chairperson agree with this position, Mr. President?
This representation, you mean?
Yes.
Well, I manifested my position on the floor, and therefore that's on record, Mr. President.
I forgot what was your manifestation, Mr. President.
Well, Mr. President, our position, and we continue to share this position, continue to hold onto this position, is that that we believe that there was judicial overreach. But having said that, we hope that the Supreme Court will reconsider the position that it has taken. In fact, there is a pending motion for reconsideration.
So, in short, you disagreed with the position of the Supreme Court.
That is correct. And as a co-equal branch, we will be respectful. And we have said this too, that in the end, when this is final, when the decision is final and the motion for reconsideration has been disposed of, regardless, as a lawyer, a member of the officer of the court, we will respect whatever ruling the Supreme Court will
All right.
render.
Lastly, I remember, if my memory serves me right, we had an all-senators caucus meeting when Senator Escudero was still the Senate President. And we were discussing about this impending impeachment trial of against Vice President Sara Duterte. And we were discussing a lot of issues, various issues. No? And I overheard you saying that the impeachment court is higher than the Supreme Court. Do you still stand by your statement that the impeachment court is higher than the Supreme Court? Because I am not a lawyer, but I studied law for 4 years, but I really beg to disagree that the impeachment court is higher than the Supreme Court, Mr. President.
Well, it is higher in the sense that a sitting Supreme Court justice can be dismissed on impeachment cases by the impeachment court. In that regard, we are able to hold a Supreme Court justice to account. We render judgment. So it's a novel legal question and legal argument.
You mean to tell this representation that we can summon the justices of the Supreme Court? What if they don't want to appear here? What can we do?
Well, we actually summoned.
Can we just force them to?
We actually
appear before
summoned.
the Senate?
With due respect to our colleague, we actually did have this former Supreme Court justice appear before the impeachment court.
Who?
So,
Yeah,
Justice
I know
Carmen.
that. Because it was an impeachment.
and that is the context of why I said that as an impeachment court, we are supreme in our own jurisdiction, and maybe in fact higher than the Supreme Court in that regard when it comes to impeachment processes. Because the Supreme law of the land says so, that we have the sole power. Sole, it says sole power. It does not say anything else but sole power to try and decide impeachment cases.
Well, still, I beg to disagree with your opinion. I still believe in my own thoughts that the impeachment court is sui generis, and I think the impeachment court is sui generis, and I believe that the Supreme Court is still higher than anyone else, any court in particular, including the impeachment court.
In fact, Mr. President, in the impeachment case of Chief Justice Corona, when the Supreme Court issued a temporary restraining order, an injunction as to the bank accounts. I will remember this because the late Senator Enrile, who was our presiding officer, opted for us to vote on whether or not we would respect the ruling of the Supreme Court. In that regard, the vote was to respect the ruling.
I think that was only a resolution issued by the Supreme Court. It was not a decision.
No, it was a vote by the, I was there, Mr.
Yes,
President.
I was also there.
Yes,
I
you
was
were
also
there.
part
We
of the-
voted
was
to
also part
respect.
of the
We
impeachment
voted to
trial.
respect 1210. We voted to respect the Supreme Court ruling.
Yes,
In
I
other
know.
words, we could have voted not to. But of course, that was not the case.
Yes, I know. I was.
And it was an exercise of our exclusive power as an impeachment court.
What if it was adverse to the decision?
Well, that's
of,
speculative,
the decision
Mr.
of the
President.
Supreme Court.
The
What
point
will
is,
happen?
that's speculative, Mr. President. The point is, we voted.
Yes, I
we
know.
did not decide to just respect the Supreme Court ruling. We voted as an impeachment court.
Yes, I
we
was-
exercised our authority as the supreme or the sole power, having the sole power and sole jurisdiction to try cases.
Yes, I was also one of them who voted to respect the decision or the resolution of the Supreme Court not to open the foreign, I think it was the foreign bank accounts of the late Chief Justice Corona. What I'm asking, kung sakasakali, what if the vote was overturned? I mean, 12-10 in favor of not respecting the opinion of the Supreme Court. What will happen?
Well, it's speculative, Mr. President. It didn't happen, so.
Yeah. Being a lawyer, maybe you can educate this representation because I am
Well,
not
also
a lawyer.
being a lawyer, if it's a speculative, if I'm
Maybe we
being
can-
asked to answer a scenario that's speculative, I'd rather wait for the actual case. In this actual, and what I'm citing is the facts that when the Supreme Court ruled to enjoin us from opening, accessing the bank accounts, we opted to vote whether we would respect the Supreme Court ruling or not. That is an exercise of the authority of the impeachment court over the Supreme Court.
Maybe we can ask.
Fortunately, and I think every lawyer must strive to harmonize what may appear to be conflicting provisions of the Constitution. And the Senate then voted 12-10 to respect the ruling of the Supreme Court and harmonize both powers.
Mr. President, if I may, with the two
Yes,
gentlemen.
leaders recognized.
Thank you. Even this last decision of the Supreme Court on Vice President Sara Duterte, we also voted 18-5-1. It was 18 in favor to archive because of the decision of the Supreme Court. So there was also a vote. 5 went against that decision to archive and 1 abstention. That's our presiding officer. So we also voted at that.
And that is the exercise. That is and I agree. That is an exercise of the impeachment court, and therefore it decided to archive the case in that regard. Oh, sorry, the vote to archive was not done by the impeachment court. It was done in plenary. Yes, so that would be a different set of facts.
All right. Okay, Mr. President. Does the Supreme Court has the authority to review the impeachment proceedings for grave abuse of discretion, for example?
The Supreme Court has the power to exercise. It has the when there is grave abuse of discretion, the Constitution provides that power to the Supreme Court to to intervene and to correct what may have been an abuse of authority or power of other branches of government. It's the power of judicial review.
Okay, assuming we convict a impeachable officer, can it be elevated to the Supreme Court? No more.
No.
The
That's a-
decision or the ruling of the impeachment court is final.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Again, maybe you can ask the opinion of maybe the court administrator or the justices of the Supreme Court here present with regard to my question propounded to you, Mr. President, with regard to the who is higher, the Supreme Court or the impeachment court.
Well, I think considering that there's still a motion for reconsideration on the positions taken by the House of Representatives, and there is a pending case, then they would prefer, yes, kulang daw ng 12. Kaya, but kidding aside, it would be sub judice.
Okay. Anyway, that's all, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor. Thank you for the justices of the Supreme Court, the court administrator, and to all the justices present here today. Thank you very much.
Senator Lauren.
Thank you very much to the good senator from San Juan. Maraming salamat. Safe na ako.
Safe mga tanong mo. Anyway, Mr. President, next to propound, hopefully, just 2 questions. She promised me just 2 questions today. Is no other than our Vice Chairman of the Committee of Vice Chairman of the Committee on Appropriations, and our former Senate President Pro Tem, our champion of the environment, no other than Senator Lauren Legarda.
Senator Lauren Legarda is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was going to skip asking questions because the Majority Leader requested me not to ask, but I miss the esteemed members of the judiciary because I, just like the chair now, defended their budget for quite a while, but it was a different batch of members of the judiciary that was more than 10 years ago. And so my questions, as always, will be on important issues and something that could help perhaps in giving clarity to the budget or even increasing it. And my first question will be on critical funding for digitalization. May this representation know how will the judiciary secure the restoration of critical funding for digitalization, for new court positions, and infrastructure to strengthen accountability and access to justice amid substantial budget cuts and persistent capacity gaps. I say this as the judiciary has its 2026 budget with significant funding shortfalls that jeopardize ongoing reforms in its ability to deliver timely justice. From the 105.76 billion, correct me if I'm wrong, it requested, only 67.945 billion was approved, resulting in a 36% reduction that leaves digitalization, new court positions, and infrastructure far behind the operational needs. I could go on and on and on, but these are some of the most affected areas from the budget cuts. In fact, I know that the judiciary is seeking the restoration of 21.31 billion to fill thousands of court positions, to strengthen the office of the judiciary marshals, and to complete priority halls of justice. This is a very long list. That is my first question, Mr. President, and could you kindly answer it, especially with regards to digitalization, which is very important. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question. Based on the committee report, we have actually added sa request ng Judiciary, Justice Sector Convergence Program from the House, from the 2026 GAB, it was 175,819,000. We have recommended an additional 150 million, which will then which is now reflected in the committee report, a total of 325,819,000 for the Justice Sector Convergence Program, which includes e-filing, e-services, the issuance service of court processes, enable electronic submissions, as well as warrants and subpoenas. That's one of the increases that we are proposing. This will likewise include securing interagency transmissions with the DOJ, DILG, and other national justice information partners.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. May I be informed whether the cut of 36% from the proposed 105 billion is accurate? That only 67.945, just to be...
Yes, that is accurate.
Yes, may we know which of the many aspects will be most affected? Is it the new court positions? Would it be the strengthening accountability? Would it be digitalization? If it's more than 1/3 of the budget, may we know which is the most important if you would put it in the order of priority for restoration of the budget?
Yes, according to the court administrator, the most important would be the personnel services because it would cover lump sum amounts for the creation of new positions. Specifically, the Office of Regional Managers under the court administrator, 375 positions. Unified Legal Aid Service Office, which provides additional legal assistance and access and training. Office of the Judiciary Marshals, this is actually 1,000 positions that will be new positions. Social Service and Counseling, 65 positions. So Office of the Bar Confidant, Office of the Chief Justice, lower courts, for 10,147 newly created positions. Apart from personnel, maintenance and operating expenses have also been slashed. The total would be about 1.34 billion for operations of PhilJA training, MOE for 15 regional court managers, professional services, rent, lease, MOE, and for capital outlay as well, transportation equipment, ICT equipment, intangible assets.
All of those that you've mentioned, Mr. President, are those that were presumably in Tier 2 that were not accepted, or were those...
Yes,
Those
Tier 2.
are all in Tier 2. And those are the aspects of their work that will be affected. I simply wanted to put it on record, but I'm sure that the chair would try to restore some of these important, even if it's in Tier 2, because sometimes a DBM would not, well, they're doing their job, but would not be able to know that there's actually fiscal space, especially since we cut a big chunk from DPWH, more than the 255B from flood control, but even others which don't have coordinates, etc. So there's actually some fiscal space, just to put that on record. And so it would be helpful if the judiciary would be able to prioritize those in Tier 2 in case the chair of the committee, Senator Gatchalian, and the chair of the judiciary budget would consider. That's what I used to do 10 years ago. Thank you. Having said that, Mr. President, I look back, way back in 2008, when the Supreme Court designated 117 environmental courts nationwide. to prioritize cases involving environmental protection, but many of these salas remain regular trial courts with added environmental jurisdiction rather than fully equipped specialized courts, highlighting the need to reassess their capacity, the resources, and effectiveness amid today's more complex environmental disputes. So my question is, of these 117 environmental courts almost 20 years ago, how many are still operational, if any? Where are they located? And do they handle exclusively environmental cases? Or are they mostly regular trial courts with added environmental jurisdiction? And how will these courts, if they're operational and doing their jobs as such, be affected by these budget cuts?
There are still 120 designated environmental courts, and they are situated in different regions of the country. Are all regions represented? Nationwide. So all regions have environmental courts.
Are these regional trial courts with added environmental cases, or are there already dedicated environmental courts, Mr. President?
It would be additional
Additional
caseload.
work.
Yes.
Have we not contemplated on having dedicated environmental courts, Mr. President? I brought this up in my first term, in my second term. I'm on my fourth term,
Yeah, but-
and I think it would be helpful amid so many environmental cases, the rising environmental cases related to flood control issues, related to climate action.
Yes, in fact, they have created or they have assigned exclusive, but this is not on environment, but the flood control scandal.
I'm referring to not only flood control, but environmental
Yes,
cases
and in doing so,
on pollution.
they can actually add more courts to handle environmental cases. So if that was in 2008 and it was 120, maybe they should add more.
Are they adding additional court? Are we saying this prospectively, or are there existing dedicated exclusive environmental courts?
No,
Not
there are
yet.
no dedicated
Not yet.
exclusive environmental courts.
Yes.
What they have done, and my understanding is, there are not that many cases for an exclusive court to be created for that purpose. So the existing courts who have other cases that they are handling are able to handle the environmental cases.
Okay. We take note of that, Mr. President. Also, way back in 2008, the Supreme Court issued a writ of continuing mandamus on Manila Bay. And even if our justices and those who are present here are probably new, were not yet in the judiciary then, I'm sure they're familiar with this, where 13 government agencies were mandated to clean up, to rehabilitate, and preserve Manila Bay and restore its waters to Class B standards. So 17 years later, compliance remains wanting, in my opinion at least. So may we know, Mr. President, what is the current compliance status of the 13 agencies mandated by the Supreme Court to rehabilitate Manila Bay? Which agencies are lagging the most in meeting the specific directives under this mandamus? And is there a dedicated office, dedicated justice in charge? Because I remember at the time, who was the Justice? Marinduque? Supreme, Marinduque Governor. Velasco. Yeah, at the time, I think Justice Velasco was assigned to oversee that. There has always been like a focal justice for this. So my question is, what is the current compliance status of the 13 agencies to which the mandamus was issued, mandated by the Supreme Court to rehabilitate Manila Bay? And are these agencies actually complying or just ignoring the continuing mandamus? And who is the justice in charge of this, Mr. President?
Yes, according to Justice Villanueva, the new ponente, a member in charge rather, is Justice Leonen, and that they have yet to receive the latest update on the compliance of these 13 agencies.
Mr. President, it's been 17 years when the Supreme Court orders a directive to the 13 agencies of government, and I will ask each and every agency that will go through our budget as well. It's a continuing mandamus, it's self-explanatory, and I will sponsor the DNR budget on Friday. I will ask them when is their last or most recent compliance. The DILG as well, the DepEd as well, the DOH, the DA, which was last night, the DPWH, the DBM, the Coast Guard, the Maritime Group of the PNP, the PPA, the MMDA, the MWSS, and the Local Water Utilities Administration. So it's been 17 years and we do not see the water of Manila Bay improving. Is it already Class B? I will not belabor the point. I will not ask our legal luminaries on the quality of water, but this is something I think that we should be strict about.
In fact, the quality of water, the water has become land in the last 17
Although,
years.
no less than UPMSI has stated that Manila Bay is biologically alive.
Yes.
Yes. So, I'm glad to hear.
Meaning the water has become reclaimed in the last 17 years.
Yes, that's another issue altogether, or is it part of it? It is part of it. And so I'm happy to hear that there's a focal person in the, with Justice Leonen, of course, a friend from decades ago, and perhaps the Supreme Court can request for the updates on this for their full compliance. The
Yes,
13 agencies.
according to Justice Villanueva and our court administrator, there are, and Justice Marquez as well, there are regulars reports that are being submitted since 17 years ago. And they're willing to give the good senator a update, submit the update from the Supreme Court.
I would be happy to receive just a summary so that when I ask in the plenary hearings of the committees, we will be able to know whether they are fully compliant. And my last question, Mr. President, would be, pag hindi sinusunod ng ahensya ang inuutos ng Korte Suprema ayon sa Manila Bay, ay ano po ang recourse? Ano po ang dapat gawin? What happens when a government agency does not follow what it's mandated to do by the Supreme Court?
They can be cited in contempt. They can be fined for their refusal or their non-compliance with the order of the Supreme Court.
Mr. President, we would appreciate action by the Supreme Court, perhaps to have a scientific analysis, so it would be data-driven and science-based, whether these agencies we mentioned are actually compliant with their continuing mandamus, and if not, to compel whoever is heading that agency or populating that agency, because we change every 6 years, every 3 years, and ask them to commit to a certain level of compliance with the Supreme Court mandamus on Manila Bay. I think, hindi po ako nangunguna sa Korte Suprema, ito po'y dulot ng aking advokasya. Mula pa kasi second term ko po yung 2008. Ngayon po'y kalahati na akong mahigit ng aking pang-apat na termino. So, I would like to think that we can do better, and I would work together with Justice Marvick, a good friend, and with our justices who are our friends as well, so that we can compel the heads of agencies to crack the whip I have been asking this in most hearings every year, and we don't see an improvement in the quality of life in Manila Bay, and the quality of water. I think that's the very least, the present and the next generation, that's the very least we could do for them. Having stated that, and with the commitment of Your Honor, through the esteemed members of the judiciary, to ask for an update and the compliance of the 13 agencies, I would like to say that I would be more than willing to help them in compelling the agencies to comply.
Yes, we will submit the updates
Yes.
from the Supreme Court to your office.
May I request, at least for DNR, to be given to us before Friday, since I will be defending the budget of the DNR on Friday. Thank you.
May we, yes, by Friday, update on the DNR's report? Yes, that's
Tapos.
tomorrow. Oh, no, today is Wednesday.
So, hindi ako-
Friday. Yes, the court administrator will provide the update on the compliance of the DNR.
Of DNR.
Yes.
And the others perhaps
Friday.
next week if it's not readily available.
And the others for next week. Yes.
Yes.
We will submit.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for your patience. Thank you for your answers.
Thank you very much, Senator Legarda.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, there being no other members who wish to interpret the budget of the judiciary, of course, with the few amendments that were proposed earlier, and hopefully the chairman will accept the amendments to add the budget of the judiciary, particularly sa Sharia courts. Mr. President, I move that the budgets for the Supreme Courts of the Philippines and the lower courts.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President.
Just a quick manifestation before we approve. A correction in the budget of the Sandigan Bayan. The amount is 2,678,000,000, and for Ulasco, it is 39 million. For the record, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. Therefore, going back to my previous motion, I move that the budgets of the Supreme Court of the Philippines and all lower courts, the Presidential Electoral Tribunal, the Sandigan Bayan, the Court of Appeals, and the Court of Tax Appeals be deemed submitted. Congratulations po.
Yeah, there is a motion by the majority leader to close the period of interpellation and to deem submitted the budget of the judiciary,
Subject to the submissions, Mr. President.
subject to the submission as manifested by the chairman, by the sponsor.
Thank you.
Is there an objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
May I ask for a minute suspension, Mr. President?
Session is suspended.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, with the permission of the body, I will have Congress of the Philippines overtake all the rest of the budgets because wala po magtatanong. I move that we assume, or rather, I move that we take up the budgets of the Senate of the Philippines, Senate Electoral Tribunal, Commission on Appointments, House of Representatives, and House of Representatives Electoral Tribunal. I so move, Mr. President.
The consideration of the budget of the Senate of the Philippines, Senate Electoral Tribunal, Commission on Appointments, House of Representatives, House of Representatives Electoral Tribunal is now in order for interpellation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Magtatanong lang po ako, Mr. President, nandyan ba yung head ng Senate Secretariat? Ba't nawawala? Secretary Ray Bantug ay nandyan ba? Saan si Secretary? Nandyan? Okay. And we'd like to recognize, Mr. President, our sponsor, of course, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, to give the details of their budget, Mr. President.
Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, Chairman of the Finance Committee, is recognized. Gigrill mo si Ray Bantug, ah. Nag-aaral.
You recognize that we recognize you for the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we respectfully submit for the body's consideration the fiscal year 2026 proposed new appropriations of the Senate of the Philippines, Commission on Appointments, and the Senate Electoral Tribunal as follows. For the Senate, 8.5 billion pesos. For the SET, it's 329 million pesos. For the CA, it's 1.6 billion pesos. And just to emphasize, Mr. President, nakatipid ho tayo sa Senado ng 5.4 billion pesos this year. So in the spirit of efficiency, nakatipid ho tayo ng 5.4 billion pesos.
May we
Mr.
ask
President.
how were we able to save 5.4 billion pesos?
Well, Mr. President, this year we didn't allocate for capital outlay, Mr. President. So that was the main driver of the savings, Mr. President.
But Mr. President, if I may, just one quick question. But will that be sufficient enough to finish our Senate, the new Senate building?
Well, the Senate building, Mr. President, has a MICA allocation, Mr. President. So that will continue.
Multi-year allocation.
Multi-year allocation, Mr. President.
Thank you. And I believe with Senator Lacson on the helm as chairman of the Committee on Accounts, it will be a lean and mean expense, no? Mr. Chairman, we'd like to recognize Mr. President, Senator Lacson.
The commitment of our team is middle of September 2027, we will be transferring to the new Senate building.
Wow.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I believe it was much less than what was estimated, di ba po? Much less. We would like to put that on record, Mr. President.
Much less than as previously proposed to spend.
So, Mr. President, there are no members who wish to interpolate the budgets of the Senate and the SET, the CA, House of Representatives, and House of Representatives Electoral Tribunal. I move that the respective budgets be deemed submitted. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Budgets of the Senate, SET, CA, House of Representatives, Electoral Tribunal, deemed submitted.
Thank you. And Mr. President, just for the record, once again, there's a savings. Our budget of the Senate is much lower than last year by 5.4 billion pesos. Para malaman ng taong bayan that we're trying to share in the burden of fiscal spending. fiscal discipline, as said to me by Senator Lacson. So thank you. We'd like to ask for a minute suspension to look for the sponsor of the DMW as well as the Commission Overseas Filipinos Overseas, Senator Erwin Tulfo. May I ask for a
Thank
minute
you.
suspension?
Session suspended.